That's it.
Where did you come from, Oko?
Which can't talk without Which can't talk without.
Who go prison the fresh like I said this? So as I said, I've not been there, bro. Man, I don't know anything about this. It's just the rumor thing. I've not been there. I didn't go to prison. So now you know. That's been entertainment info on ITV.
The world is a global village there, and you just know that ITV is also on the world. We are viewed live and directly in many parts of many parts of the world and many parts of this country. The program is This Morning on ITV, and we are looking at economic recession and job security in Nigeria. With us this morning, we are privileged to have Mr. Francis Uwaifo. He's a business expert and also somebody that does commerce too. Welcome to this program this morning on ITV.
Thank you very much. Good
and
morning,
also, we are privileged to have Mr. Henry Eriamokai. I hope I got that well.
Yes, correct.
Who's also a business expert and a businessman too here in Nigeria. So, welcome to this program this morning.
It's a pleasure. It's my pleasure.
Now, I was trying to look at when we say economic recession, and I stumbled upon something that it says that it is a significant decline in economic activities as it relates to a country. And of course, that extend into months, from months to years and all that. Now, there has been, this argument for quite some time that Nigeria is not in recession. Some say that Nigeria is in recession. So, you guys are the two businessmen here today. So, what is your own point of view? Let's start it off from there first. I'll start with Mr. Francis.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you very much. When we talk of, you have just given the explanation, which is correct. And the nation has been in recession. There is no two ways about that. It is clear. And in fact, recently the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics confirmed it, that for the past 29 years, this is the worst period of our recession. If that can come out from the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, it tells you that the information may be higher than that, especially when you are facing a government that people have been seeing as against them, especially, against the government, especially when somebody speaks or say anything that is not to their view. But that notwithstanding, there's nothing wrong in reception. But what the problem of reception is when you are not able to move out of it for a period of time. There's no nation that does not have a reception. But if it is within the range of less than 3%, and one is able to get out of it within a reasonable period, then it becomes a good thing. But from my observation, for the past years, the nation has been in recession. As far as I'm concerned, I can't even call that recession. It's a depreciation. So we are far, far lower than the expectation. So we need to really sit up. And thank God that the president is back. We believe a lot is expected of him. And we also believe that because he has not been around, probably that's why some of the issues have not been too, has not been going too well as expected. Oh. But now that it's around, we believe that he should, get in touch with his economy team and see how they can quickly put the nation in the right perspective.
Okay. All right, Mr. Henry, let me hear from your point of view too.
When you talk about recession from the definition that we gave, there's a decline in economic activities.
Yeah.
Then what do we mean decline in economic activities? It translates to devaluation in our currency. It means that our currency, the value of it, the purchasing power, has been drastically reduced. And that's what affects the economic activities. Like when Nigeria was deeply experiencing the recession, not that we were not earning our salaries, but know that your take home will hardly take you to the next bus stop, because the value of the naira was so devalued that it could not give you something meaningful from the market. So economic activities declined. And the sad thing about it is we operate a mono economy. And two, our economy is import-based. Import being in the sense that we deal with foreign currency. So the value of the foreign currency, to a large extent, determines the economic activity in our land. So when the dollar begins to appreciate against the naira, it means that the purchasing power of the naira declines. So you may still earn the salary you are earning, but it cannot take items to your home as much as would have done when the economy was a little bit robust. That is just a summary of what recession is. And where are we today? Has it improved? Things have not improved. When people are saying Nigeria is out of recession, we ask, where were we by this time last year? Has the economy returned to where we were as at this time last year? The answer is obviously no.
Okay. Now, I'm going to be asking you some more questions because I know that you are into some sort of manufacturing, and you understand this, things better. Now, you talked about, Mr. Francis, you talked about economic depreciation and economic recession. So, what is the difference between these two terminologies? So, where exactly can we posit Nigeria now?
Yeah, when you say economic recession, is when there's a visible decline in the economy for a period of time, say 2 quarters or more. But in this situation, the decline is even more than that, and we have been experiencing decline for over the years. And from what I mentioned, that the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics said that for the past 9 years, this is the worst period of decline, of recession. So that tells you that we have always been on the decline point. So that is my base of, with that you can confidently say that the economy is on depression, not just on recession, because it has lasted for more than a reasonable period of time.
Mr. Henry, it looked as if that Nigeria seemed to be alone in this, because I recall last 2, 3, 4 years, Venezuela was in recession, economic recession.
And Greece was.
Within here, the reports that emanates from the Nigerian scenario. Recently, we understand that some firms had to lay off their workers as a result of economic recession. So why is it peculiar to Nigeria?
I don't think it's peculiar to Nigeria. For an average businessman, the bottom line of your investment is return on your investment. The businessman is interested in what comes back to him on account of the investment he has made. If, for instance, you took a facility from a bank at a net cutting rate of 25, 26, 27% outside the hidden charges, and the man is expected to make this return on his investment, and if you are invested and you look at your production cost, because that is one thing that is actually affecting us in this part of the world, our production cost is so high that if you want to translate it and push it to the consumer, you can hardly pay for any goods and services. So when the man now discovered that what he's getting in return cannot pay his bills, it's some business like for him now to go seek for a facility to pay his workers his dues. I always tell people, this the edible one, you see it's so oily. It's not fried with oil. The edible one himself will generate the oil with which it is fried. That is how business should be. The business itself should be able to sustain itself. In a situation where the business cannot sustain itself, the man is left with one choice. The choice is, let me prune down my workforce. You now discover the job that 3 people would have been doing because there's no job security. It compels 2 people to do it. At times, in most cases, compel 1 person to do 3 people's job, and the man seems not to have a choice because he has bills to pay, he has a family to take care of. So because of this, the man will have to keep a workforce that will be able to keep his business afloat. Anything that is beyond that, the man is compelled to lay some people off. That is why you see job security becomes a problem in this part of the world.
Okay. Now, Mr. Francis, recently we understand that the CBN, that's the Central Bank of Nigeria, gave concession of 60% foreign exchange to the rail sector following the Vice President's Yemi Osinbajo initiative on the ease of doing business. It directed the CBN to give some percentage, to borrowers and of money and all that. So, but how come this has not paid off? Because manufacturers, investors, they still complain.
Well, thank you. The issue now is, before now, a lot of industry has collapsed. When we talk of the rail sector, who are the main people behind the rail sector? The rail sector, in the real sense of it, which is on the decline because the production cost is high. And because of the high volume of production cost, and again, lack of infrastructure. Because when you talk of production without electricity, without energy, there's not much you can do in that process. And when those areas are not harnessed, are not taken care of, definitely the production sector will fail. And when you talk of the rail sector, who are those behind the rail sector? Most of the people we hear of the rail sector as of today is people like Dangote groups, and then and some other few people. But how many of the businesses or manufacturers within the rail sector that can really access this fund from the bank? And the sad thing about it is that when you are talking of this rail sector and again from CBN, what they look at is the big time business people. And it will hardly go to the lower business people.
Yes,
because number one of these things they require is that you must have a genuine certificate of occupancy. And most people as we speak now don't even have properties, or to talk of having a CFO to secure facilities or to have such foreign exchange. So in that process, it's going to be difficult for us to talk of research. You discover that at the end of the day, those who will still be benefiting from this so-called rail sector will be those bourgeois who are already comfortable. They are the ones that will still be benefiting. And at the end of the day, what you get from the small industrialists will be nothing to write home about. So as far as I'm concerned, there is a lot of things to be put in place, especially the infrastructures need to be put in place, and we need to get these things right. And also, when we are talking of production, we also have to assess and identify what are the key things to be produced, because Nigeria has become a dumping ground. And even when you talk of some of these things you are giving foreign exchange, you discover that some of the people that are having access to this foreign exchange still use this money to import goods into the country, and they will tell you that they are producing it in this country. And at the end of the day, what they are bringing is substandard. So at the end of the day, Nigeria will see ourselves facing, a substandard goods, consuming substandard goods, and in the process, in fact, you see some of these things could be cancerous and will result to other, people having different diseases and so on and so forth. So as far as I'm concerned, we have not really looked at the areas of the rail sector. We need to identify it and ensure that the the infrastructures are put in place, especially energy, roads, and so on.
Mr. Herod.
Okay, just to buttress that, I'm into manufacturing. You discover many times it seems cheaper for you to import than to produce. I give you a small analogy. We're into production of water. You know that label where you have the product name? When we produce it here in Nigeria, it costs us about ₦1.75, right? But when this same is imported from places like China, it comes with less than 75 kobo. I'm not talking about 1 naira. I'm not talking about 75 kobo. It's less than 5 kobo. It seems cheaper for you to import. One, just like you talked about power. If government is sincere in trying to make the business environment conducive and appealing, is to sincerely address the issue of power. There's no sincerity in addressing the issue of power, because the cost of production in Nigeria, a chunk of it is attributed to power, non-available. Most of us, we have this public power supply as standby. We use our generators. The generators ordinarily supposed to be on standby. And in most cases, when this power has been supplied to your facilities, the current is not enough to power the facility that you have here. You find yourself falling back. When you talk about even importation, if power is fixed, there will be less demand on petroleum products. Find out over 40% from analysis given, over 40% of consumption is not by vehicles, but they are used by generators. So if these generators were not imported or introduced into our production line, you will discover that we have less demand on petroleum products, then foreign exchange is equally saved. So the truth of the matter is that government is not just sincere in addressing the issue of production.
Yeah, but Mr. Henry, don't you think that sometimes that manufacturers too, because we often hear of alternatives, you have the solar system, you are into manufacturing. How come manufacturers don't take advantage of this?
The solar system you are talking about, have you taken the pain to find out how much it costs to get this thing installed? You will discover that you better remain on diesel than to go on the solar. Most of these solar panels we are talking about are already imported. CNG, this compressed natural gas, was introduced into this country. But you discover now how come that we are not able to get generators that are running on CNG. Because when you look at the cost, when they tell you the cost of importing that generator that will run on CNG, then you discover that it's still better for you to remain on diesel. The bottom line is that the importation cost is so exorbitant that you cannot cope with it. Because normally at the end of the day, the cost of your investment, you are going to spread it over your end product. And when you do this, the goods will be beyond the reach of the ordinary man. That is the problem we have in this country. Government is not yet sincere in addressing the issue of power, the issue of manufacturing. And that is the hope of the nation. I know how many people are engaged in my facility. Right? And if power was better off, then you are able to expand because demand will be more. People have equally found alternative to addressing what we produce, which ordinarily they would have loved to consume. But because to them they feel their take-home packet, their purse cannot accommodate it, they find alternative. And at the end of the day, the alternative is not helping their health conditions. So you won't blame them because you are looking at opportunity, because you are looking at preference, scale of preference. Which one do I prefer? Do I prefer to put meals on the table of my children, or do I use another area? But if power is addressed, production costs will reduce, then these goods and services will be accessible by virtually everybody.
Okay. All right. The program is still this morning on ITV, on independent television. And if you just see your screen there now, we are looking at economic recession and job security in Nigeria. Now, Mr. Francis, let's look at this issue of job security one more time. How to secure job in Nigeria? Does it lie in the hands of manufacturers, or it lies, in the hands of government with their policies? Let's look at all this in the face of all that we're saying.
Actually, the government is supposed to be a policy maker. Those that are supposed to have the bulk employment is the production industry, which is the manufacturer. And then it is from there that we transfer to the sales of goods and services. Because if you don't have any product, what are you going to sell? What are you, going to sell in the first place? And what are you going to advertise in terms of services and other things? So you must have the product. and the manufacturer is the hub, is the key thing. If that is not there, I found anything meaningful as far as employment opportunity is concerned in this country. And in fact, it is the decline in manufacturing sector that has actually put us into this mess. If I remember in the 80s where we have some of these industries and we have marketing companies and so on, because when you produce, you have those who can market, and then you have chains of industry, chains of enterprise to, handle the products. But where that is not there, you don't expect to have a good employment. And that is why we are where we are. And today, the kind of employment you see are contract job and is unsecured. And that is not good for any economy. For economy to have meaning, we must have a manufacturing sector. There must be production. There must be mining. There must be the key core areas of production must be identified. But agriculture, we must also see positive moves in that area. So the area for for employment is mainly mining and production, and which is the manufacturing sector. If these are not there, and then construction, if these ones are not there, there's no way you can get meaningful employment. And the government cannot employ everybody. Because one, the government is supposed to be a policy regulatory authority. It's supposed to promulgate a policy, regulate that promise, and monitor all those things. They're supposed to be, monitors of the production and other activities to ensure that there's genuine products that are produced and so on. So the government really does have business with production, but they're supposed to, look at whatever is happening in the production industry and ensure that they regulate it and ensure that whatever is being produced is consumable and will not have health effect on the citizenry. So those are the basic things. But as we speak now, the employment rate is on the increase. Unemployment rate is on the increase. And we are having graduates every year. And where are they? Where are they going to employ them? I was just looking at research has it that in 1974, the graduate unemployment rate was less than 1%. That is in 1974. It was less than 1%. But today, what is the rate? It's close to 40%, or if not more. So you discover that the system is on the decline. That is why I looked at the economy. As far as I'm concerned, I did not see it just as a recession, but it's completely, we are moving on a depressive proportion, as the way I see it.
Okay, Mr. Henry, recent studies show that about 30% of jobs in Nigeria are not secured. Now, what does this portend for our economy?
Sad.
Very sad.
Very sad. I know of a street in Benin here. I grew up to know that street, Texaimi Road, was named after an industry. But today,
there was actually a textile mill.
There was actually a textile mill
on that road.
On that road. But where is textile mill today?
In Benin here.
In Benin here. So many industries, so many facilities that were owned by industries. Either today they have been converted to churches or whatever. Take it over. Nobody invests with the mind of closing shop tomorrow. But most of them have closed shop today because they could not operate under the environment. What government owes us as Nigerians is to create a enabling business environment. Once enabling business environment is created where business could thrive, then you can more industries begin to spring up. And when industries are springing up, it's not ghosts that are going to work in those industries.
But at times we have foreign investors come into the country and they thrive. So what is the problem?
No, you think they strive. That is why, but you discover that over time, those industries, we have this capital flight, they are not reinvesting in the economy. And the mother country, they send them subventions to make them keep afloat in the country of operation. It's not, I agree with people, it is not because of poor management that most businesses collapse. That is part of it. But mostly is unfriendly business environment. Why is there so much job insecurity? Because like I said earlier on in this program when I started, that the bottom line of every investor investing is return on his investment. When you are not able to get return on investments, you must do everything possible to keep your business afloat. If it means pruning down your workforce, you will do that. I heard last year or thereabout where the Minister of Labour was saying that because of the recession that employers shouldn't send their workers home.
Lay off workers there.
But the man has no choice. The man is left with no choice if keeping you in his business will make him go under. He will do the needful to make his business go up. I explained sometime last week, maybe about 2 weeks ago, in one of the banks, one of these big banks, somebody went to work on Saturday, on Friday, but by Saturday, he was being invited. He was being invited. He was being invited that you have a mail in the office. Only for him to get to the office and he says he's been laid off. No query whatsoever. Because since government removed the accounts from these banks, that in a way has equally affected the returns of the banks. So that's why we hardly have job security. And just like I said, it is not, it's sad for the nation.
And maybe sometimes since government, is trying to really fight corruption, most of these banks at times, they don't have those huge deposits anymore.
Yeah, they don't have the huge deposits because every business, every government transaction goes straight to the CBN.
Now, Francis, I know you also want to bear your minds on this, the high level of job insecurity as it relates to the 30%. So what does it portend for our economy?
Well, it's a great risk for the economy because they say an idle man is a devil's workshop.
And that's some security issues there?
Yes, so that is what makes it more dangerous because can you imagine after years of burning candle and lantern to succeed in your education, at the end of the day you are thrown into the labor market and you are told there's no job, or at the end of the day you are asked to take Empower that to a large extent you are not even sure whether it will be a permanent job or not. And that is if you are even privileged to have that. And that makes it very difficult and makes it very unfortunate as far as the country is concerned. So my take is that the government should really sit up and identify the various areas of the economy and ensure how they can put things right. And that is why personally I appreciate the state government, because if you look at some of his the governor's activities since he came to power, he has been trying to put a lot of things in place, looking around through the energy sector, looking at the roads, and looking at agriculture. So these are areas that will boost the economy. But my prayer is that we should have the rightful people, the right people in the right position, so that we'll be able to get to our Eldorado. But if we continue in a situation where everything is being politicized, and then we are not doing what we're supposed to do, then we will continue to have a problem. There's no two ways about it. The inflation rate is high. And like what he said, there's no way you can talk of production when the interest rate is on the increase. And for you to have a good production, at least you must have, there should be a one-digit interest rate. But what we are having is two-digit, a double-digit interest rate that is very high. And again, the inflation is a factor. And you discover, like what he said, they are into manufacturing. And said that to import goods of similar products is cheaper for them than producing. So in that situation, you end up having your nation as a dumping ground for every product, for international product. And that is why the Asians are doing well. Because they have been able to get financial support from their parent companies or from their government to assist them. And most of the loans they use in production here are within the one-digit interest.
Okay.
But for you as a Nigerian, you don't have that privilege.
All right. As we wrap up now, Mr. Henry, now in my basic economic class those days in school, we're told that a good entrepreneur must know what to produce, when to produce, and how to produce. Now, I think there is something synonymous with Nigerian producers, Nigerian manufacturers. There seem to be these bandwagon effects. Take, for example, manufacturing, making of pure water. Sachet water is the common thing. Then you have almost every entrepreneur going into it. So don't you think that at times that entrepreneurs in Nigeria also need to be innovative? So that they can boost the economy and they won't have all these problems we're talking about.
Very correct. You've spoken very rightly. But another factor is take-off capital. There may be other businesses you wanted to venture into, but you look at what is the take-off, what is the take-off capital. Then you feel with this amount of money, at least I can start off. I can start off it. Just to add a little to what my brother said, one of the dangers of this job insecurity. It encourages corruption. Because I'm not sure of my stay in this establishment tomorrow. Depending on the man, I say, okay, let me think of how to help myself in case the unforeseen happens. So when your job, you are sure of your job. I know at the end of the day, by the time I put in 20 years, I will be ceremoniously disengaged. Then you know you are going to live honorably. But when you are not too sure that tomorrow if I come, for example, I cannot log in. When I cannot log in means that my job is terminated. So the people begin to help themselves, just to help themselves. So I think that is one of the, government must do something to create a enabling environment for business, for investors to do business and have good return on their investment. When that is done, then your job, those who are employed on that establishment, their job is as good as secure.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much, Mr. Francis. Extend that handshake to
it's a pleasure.
Thank you so much for finding time to come. Now, there's a message for the government there and also for manufacturers to be innovative. I think so. That's what we're saying. So that the issue of economic recession and also as it relates to having job security will be something that we're going to pride ourselves with as Nigerians. Well, we'll take a short pause now at 9:30 to join Uya.